everybody, I'm Zenith Rule. Welcome back to the Disney Debate, where Kat Macberrie, Doug Macberrie, and myself discuss Disney movies from way back in the day, sometimes current, but more lately. Lately, it's been a lot of films from the 1960s. Last time we discussed The Absentminded Professor, which was a very different film. It definitely embodied a lot of the 60s and for much ill, I would say. No, we didn't really like it. There are some good points, but for the most part, it's a skip. Well, I regret to inform you that there is, in fact, a sequel called Son of Flubber. Son of Flubber. I think they were trying to cash in on the Universal monster movies like Son of Frankenstein or something like that. And I want to say this is better, but well, that's getting ahead of myself. First of all, how's it going, Kat?
Are we done with this yet?
We have maybe 45 more minutes to go.
I mean, the series. I don't want to do this. God.
We're nearing good movies. I mean, next time we're not going to have a movie from the 60s at least.
Yeah, but Flubber on my brain, and it's boring.
And Mr. Doug, how's it going? Doug?
I'm sorry, were you talking to me? I was looking at our jokes from the last, from the Absentminded Professor, and seeing why they didn't work, and I felt like the best option is to repeat them, but not really make them funny, but everybody should laugh at them anyway, because I think that's what they should do. But what were we talking about again?
I'm gonna leave it at that, Doug. First of all, you're fired. Second of all, The Absent-Minded Professor was a film that we discussed last time about a person who is very scatterbrained to the point of supposed comedy, but annoyance in the case of all three of us. He created this invention called Flubber, which is basically flying rubber. It allows him to create a flying car. It allows him to create shoes that jump and all this other stuff. So it has many uses. At the end of the film, he presented it to the government, where he was supposed to get paid handsomely for it. That does not happen, and this film happens afterwards. Okay, so the gist of this film is that the government decides we need to talk it over with the government. We need to, talk to Washington and see how to market this and blah, 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 blah. Basically, they don't want to give him money, even though they want his invention.
I'm the government. I'm the government. I'm the reason nothing works.
So he spends the rest of the film trying to find a way to pay the bills because they literally have no money. And the school has no money. So he creates another invention, and a lot of wacky things happen, but none of the problems in the film are solved. By the end of the film, he does not get the money. By the end of the film, none of these individual things are solved. The IRS comes to claim taxes that he hasn't paid, and by the end of the film, that's not resolved. There's a lot of unresolved things, and yet I can't really bring myself to hate the film because of a couple things. I think the first half is very dull and repetitive. It's basically a repeat of the first film, only with a different invention. The second half of the film is stupid and ridiculous and over the top, but I started having fun with it. It's not great, but it's better. In parts, it is better than the first film. I don't know, Kat. What are your initial thoughts?
This is worse than the first film. Like, I mean, in certain ways, but I don't know. It's hard because it's the exact same film.
Pretty
Like
much.
every single plot point is exactly replicated, just with a slightly different twist to it. Like, there's a whole stupid love triangle going on. Well, let's make it a love square then, and introduce another love interest. We have that car chase scene where he's trying to like murder that guy, but it's like, oh, let's make it a little more funny and have it so that the car fills up with water and he's wearing like this scuba diving suit. That'll be funny. And oh, let's take the basketball scene but make it football, and instead of them bouncing they float. Like these are all the same fucking points and they're not funny. It's just, it's annoying so much. Like after a certain point, like, because I thought maybe this might go in a different direction or something. Like, I didn't expect it to pick up directly where it left off. I thought maybe this would take place like years down the line or something. But yeah, like it picks up and everything just immediately goes to shit. And it's just like, first of all, he's a freaking idiot. That, like, right off the bat, like, I know he was already an idiot, but I hate the fact that he signed over all of his rights, like, to Flubber, to the government. Like, you don't do that. You do that, you will never see a friggin' cent in your life. Like, the government will completely profit off of it, and you will get jack squat. That was stupid. And then on top of that, on his taxes, he declared he would have $1 million in, like, wages. And he didn't even, like, calculate that or anything. He just guessed, assuming what the government would pay him. Like, really? Are you trying to get arrested? Are you trying to get audited? That is, like, oh, God. Like, that had me going, like, the first 15 minutes of this film.
Yeah, it is just... It's infuriating because, first of all, it invalidates everything from the first film. We never really get anything to do with Flubber, and all these companies that want to give him $1 million checks to market Flubber just go away because the government's involved, and we never hear anything from Flubber again, aside from the fact that his car can now fly. It's just like, oh, let's move on to a different invention, a different thing, and, Doug, what do you think?
This movie is just as bad as the first one, except for the fact that we add some additional cringe. Cringe! That's, with extra cringiness. Because we have, like, in addition to, like, all the same, plot points and jokes from the first one, it's like we have to add in, him talking about taxes while he, struggling to pay for a newspaper delivery boy. We have this commercial about, like, the uses of Flubber, and it's like the creepy baby and, bouncing a freaking baby on Flubber.
To be fair, I did think that part was funny. Like, it's
but it was still cringy, though.
Oh, it was super cringy, but it's funny because it's your typical, like, commercial where they show you this product that's one of those infomercials where they show this product that does these supposedly impossible things. Like, they're saying, use flubberolium, put it around your house so it won't be a death trap. So now if you drop something on the floor, like say you trip or you drop eggs or you drop your baby, don't worry, they'll be safe because they'll bounce right up again.
I loved that he slipped on the wagon, he did a flip, and then he bounced back up like nothing.
Dick Van Dyke, take notes.
Well, I will say the first half is very dull and there's a lot of problems I'll get into. There are these moments that make me laugh.
Like, that part particularly did make you laugh because it was just so outrageously stupid, but something I could totally see being done on TV.
But it's like, it gets even worse with, like, the cringe, because it's like, you have also the romantics. They throw that into the mix. What else?
For whatever reason, they decided to bring back the ex from the first film, only this time he brought back the professor's ex as well. for the pure purpose of trying to lure him away from his wife, make her jealous, and then go back to the ex after they're already married.
And here's the stupid part. And this is the part of the film that really infuriated me because it didn't even need to be there. They drag out the stuff with both of the exes for a large portion of the film where nothing happens aside from him briefly tinkering with his inventions. Guess what? Both of the exes don't really do anything later. They have no reason. The super fancy girl who throws a Halloween party, she doesn't appear in the end of the film. The ex only appears once in the end of the film. I think his name is Shelby. He only appears once after the car chase scene. So, like, a lot of the middle of the film is completely pointless because there's no closure.
And not only that, it doesn't, like, make sense. Like, in the first one, they had the love triangle to show what the professor could stand to lose if he didn't, stop being an asshole, pay attention to his fiancée, and realize what was important and everything. And he had, like a time crunch because he was worried that, the ex was going to steal her away from him. In this one, they're already married. They're already going through problems, financially and everything. It's enough where, she could divorce him based on that. But no, they got to throw in the exes for whatever reason. And it's not like they have anything to do with the inventions. They don't try to steal them. They don't try to get involved with them. It's just, the guy doing the same exact thing he did in the first one. It's like, dude, they're married now. Call it quits. Wait till she divorces him of her own free will, then go back and try to get her again.
And they're both in the wrong again. Like, first of all, the professor is still very absent-minded to the point where he thinks of other things instead of, like, actually paying the bills, instead of actually, like, patenting his invention. But on the other hand, the fiancé or the wife, whatever, she is unbearable because he invented something that could change the world and make a lot of money, and she says, invent trash can lids that fit. What?
Well, to be fair, at that point in time, that would have been a revolutionary thing. Plus, again, you need something that you can market to people, and you can't exactly market something like that unless it's to, like, on a grand scale. Like, what she's saying is to do, start small. And, do something that you can actually patent and then market yourself. That can be, done in mass production.
I guess, but...
Plus the guy, like, this was what really infuriated me. Like, because I already thought there was a lot of sexist overtones in the first one. It's even more blatant in this one. Because in the first one, at least, the fiancée, she at least had her own job. She worked at the college and everything. She was making her own living, so she wasn't relying on him. Now that they're married, they did that old-timey thing where, the wife has to quit her job and rely completely on the husband for income, and he's not making any income, even though he's a teacher. And, yeah, it's like, I can understand her being frustrated at that point and thinking, hey, if I'm going to quit my job, you're going to have to provide for me. And if you're not going to go, actually do it, then I'm going to, not support you with all these endeavors, which, is fair because come on. And then he refuses to let her work on top of that. He's like, no wife of mine will get a job. Fucking asshole. You guys are like about to be audited by the IRS. You're about to go to jail.
You
Like,
can't
come
afford
on.
a freaking newspaper delivery boy.
At one point, she even like tries to auction off like one of her family heirlooms just to get some quick cash, and she's about to get it, but because of his stupid invention, it shatters, and she's shit out of luck. So he like sabotages her at every freaking turn. Like, I don't blame her for being pissed off at him.
And it's not like the IRS are just gonna be lenient. He's trying to take money and audit that little kid who sells newspapers. And he's,
that was, yeah.
And he put away his own wife.
Me a lot.
Not his own wife. He put away his own mother.
Yeah, that's like, well, that guy I think is like cartoonish villain at this point. Like, that's not realistic. But yeah,
like,
that's
he's
still
at
really
the level
stupid.
that Keenan wins at, basically.
Yeah, Even Ken Wynn is more of a convincing, like, villain than that guy was. You can't audit a kid, especially, like, you can't audit somebody who doesn't pay taxes. Like, come on.
Yeah, and not only that, but it doesn't pay off in the end. The IRS does not come in the end of the film. So, like, the part about him trying to help this school does not come back. Him trying to pay the IRS doesn't come back. Like, them being poor does not come back. Like, a lot of these plot points are just left there, and then there's a secondary plot about the lovers and the exes that goes nowhere. So the first half of the film is, say it with me, entirely pointless. Doug, what are your thoughts?
Yes. No, I feel like so much of this was a waste of time. Honestly, like you said, really the only good parts, it's like that commercial and then like the end with Ed Wynn and the giant vegetables. It's like everything else is basically the same as the Absent-Minded Professor. It's like you have the the same plot points. You have freaking dumb people, because it's like, oh, this thing's happening again where the people are blatantly cheating at sports, but I don't see any rule against it.
Yes, because there wouldn't be a rule against tampering with the uniform or the equipment. Yeah, we've never heard of that before.
Welcome to Inflategate, I should say.
Oh yeah, Tom Brady was probably taking notes during this whole movie.
Seriously, the properties of this gas makes no sense to me. Like, this is what they call the son of Flubber, which is the Flubber gas, and its whole purpose intentionally was to create rain. And that in and of itself is like, okay, that could possibly work, because theoretically you can recreate rain from steam and, condension and everything. But then it has the weird side effect where it causes glass to shatter. And then later on at the end of the film, it's revealed that any plant that is watered, but that retains water from the rain, it causes it to grow like 10 times its size.
Can you say growth hormone?
That makes no freaking sense to me. And why does it only affect the produce? What about the rest of the plant life? Why aren't there like giant trees or giant bushes or giant grass? None of that makes sense.
It's very weird, especially because that only comes in near the end of the film. Like, the first half is them with the money troubles, and then there's the fight with the exes, and then they run out of food, and there's a Halloween party scene that runs nowhere. And spread out through the middle of the film is them trying to cheat at football, and Brainard helping them cheat at football, because they use the Flubber gas to inflate up the player and help them float so that they can hold the ball, and then later to inflate the ball itself. Again, Inflategate.
That also doesn't make sense to me, because what point do they say that it's the same property as helium? If that's the fact, then why is it able to linger up just above, underneath the atmosphere and create clouds? And why isn't it make the fruit and plants and stuff float upward? Why is it only in the football?
It just raises too many questions, and there's a lot of slapstick with them trying to figure out how to make the Flubber gas work in football, and them, slapstick comedy.
Crashing into the neighbor's chicken coop.
Yeah, crashing into the chicken coop and all this other stuff. That's the first half of the movie. The second half is where I actually started to pick my interest, because it became so dumb I could not help but laugh, for two reasons. One was he uses his invention on Shelby. Shelby takes his wife home after this whole misunderstanding at a party, and takes her home and confesses his love again when she's still married. And And so he follows them in the flying car and uses his machine to make it rain inside the car. And yes, this is entirely not scientific and it's stupid as all hell, but I couldn't help but laughing because he's aiming the weather gun at the car with the most sadistic grin on his face with his dog in the car, and it's starting to rain and the car's filling up and he's still going and he gets zapped by lightning a few different times, and then the car floods and it crashes into the police cruiser, the two police officers who arrested him in the previous film. I know it is entirely stupid, but I love that sequence.
The only thing I like about that scene is the fact that because he had no food in the house, basically he's being punished because his wife left and, he relied on her for doing all the shopping and stuff. It's like, because they can't afford food, he now has to go to his former girlfriend's party just so he can steal food.
And that's the last time we see her, by the way.
Yep.
What do you think, Kat? Because I know you two have had thoughts on it. I'm sorry, I loved that sequence.
I just thought it was dumb, and again, it doesn't match up with what they said the flubber gas can do, because he had trouble at the beginning trying to make it work because he needed clouds in order to actually create the rain and, let it precipitate. Where would there be a cloud inside a car? Unless you were getting high, but he wasn't, so...
No, he created the clouds. He reversed the machine to create clouds.
Oh, okay, but even so, the guy was, moving at a high speed. I don't see how that would have worked. And then the fact that the car was, apparently sealed enough that it could keep the water in to the point where it filled all the way up, and then kept driving even after the guy took his foot off the pedal.
Yeah, I will grant you that. That's kind of stupid, but I still found it funny. I mean, yeah, granted, it's very cartoony, but that sequence kind of reminded me a little bit about the Shaggy Dog when, the sequence with the dog driving the car. Does that make any sense? No, but it's ridiculous and fun. So, I kind of equate it to that.
I don't know, the thing is, by the time we got to that scene, I had, completely checked out, because I'm like, oh, wow, look, it's the same exact scene from the last one, shot exactly, shot for shot, except that now there's water, and he's in a stupid suit. At that point, I was like, I'm done, I'm just gonna, I'll watch, but I'm not gonna, retain... I was just I was so done with the movie by this point. I found no joy in it from this point on. Everything either just served as a time waster or a point to make me even more mad.
It's weird. I was kind of the opposite, because from the start of the film I was checking out because first of all the green screen was so bad, the effects were so bad. They tried to make a effect of a goose going over the car, but it's green screened in, and it's so badly done. And then the rest of the stuff up until that point, I was checked out. I was busy, on my phone, trying other things, and then we get to the car scene, and I'm sorry, I could not help but laugh. And then the movie kind of just derails from there. It's just a series of these weird occurrences. First, they have the football game where they help them cheat, and they use the flubber, and so instead of basketball now, Biff's on the football team, and so they use I don't get this, but the effects are better in this part of the film because they actually show them flying and jumping and floating around to win the game. And yeah, it is entirely stupid. The whole, there's no rule that says, there's nothing in the rule book against it. But here's the thing. One of my favorite guilty pleasures is Air Bud. Disney. There's no rule that says a dog can't play basketball. I can't in good conscience like Air Bud and not like this part of the film.
But I mean, to be fair, there really isn't any rules in basketball limiting a player based on their identity and everything. It's supposed to be a non-discriminating sport. So
Yeah.
I would see how they wouldn't have the need to specify that a dog can't play. But even so, like with this, like in the first film, obviously they knew something was going on, but it's like, how do you like limit how high a player can jump, since that's part of the sport, is jumping really high to reach the net. So, that I can understand. With this, it's obvious they're doing something to modify their uniforms.
Yes.
That is not allowed in football by any
Yes.
means. Like, certain players are not even allowed to wear cleats. So I don't know what the hell, like, they were thinking, saying, oh, well, nothing against this guy inflating his suit or, replacing the ball with inflated air. Yeah, there is. There are very specific rules for that in the books.
And the guy actually finds it, and the ref's just like, dude, this is an interesting game. Shut up. I mean, yeah, it's stupid, and you can clearly tell, like, the uniform deflates, but there's a part of the film where they make a play by making a human pyramid to stop them from doing this.
Oh, God. So dumb.
I know, it's just the right kind of dumb for my taste, my palate. I know some people might think otherwise. I'm sorry, I really did enjoy this part of the film.
Like, two other parts I don't get. One is, why is Biff suddenly, like, the professor's protege? Like, wasn't he failing his science class, like, to the point where he couldn't even spell the college's name right?
Exactly, yeah.
And not only that, like, again, he played basketball, and now he's, like, playing football. I mean, I get it, the two sports don't play at the same time, so I guess it could be possible, but I don't see how the professor, who was so, like, morally against certain things, is now suddenly okay with him using his invention to, like, cheat at this other sport. And on top of that, once the professor, like, gets his head around the idea, he's like, okay, we'll use this to market my new idea. It's like, you're gonna market your idea during this college football game, which only the town is watching, and, basically admit later on that you helped them cheat. Yeah, that's gonna pan out well for you.
Not to mention the fact that they do a 97-yard field goal kick and kick the football into outer space.
Oh my God.
It's so dumb. It is really dumb. And yeah, like, I understand if you don't like, it's stupid. I get it. But again, I like Air Bud, so stuff like this is kind of funny to me. Doug?
So, for starters, I think I could probably logic some of this. Like, I think that, Tommy Kirk's character, maybe he was offered, like, an internship position as a way of getting extra credit because he was doing so badly, at school. So, he could continue to do athletics. I'm kind of lost after that, but I think it is a common thing too for student athletes to do more than one sport, seeing as the sports really only go on at different times of the year. So it could be because, basketball season was over and now football season began. So I'd say it's possible for him to be on more than one sports team. But yeah, no, they're so, I can't even, this is like, it is one of those things where it's like a train wreck. You don't want to stare, but you can't look away. And it's about as funny as a train wreck. It's like, it's one of those things where, it's horrific, but maybe there's like a clown on fire, so you kind of can't help but laugh at that. I don't know. I really got nothing. This one was just, it's like bad up until like they're trying to do all this stuff, and then really the only thing that lands is when Ed Wynn comes up because he's fucking delightful. I don't
Okay,
care what the fuck he's saying. He's just delightful.
I get that it's stupid. It's just stupid enough for me to be funny. So yeah, let's talk about the third thing that happens. After the football game, he gets arrested because, the side effect of his machine was shattering glass everywhere. And yes, I liked the shattering glass montage because there was like spilt milk and Keenan Wynn was like because he's an insurance person. Keenan Wynn was like saying, "Oh well, we don't have to cover all this. It's your fault." And then he finds out later, yeah, he kind of has to he does have to cover all this. Obviously, he traces it back to Brainard, and the final bit of the movie is a trial, and they bring in Ed Wynn, which from that moment on, I'm just like, it's Ed Wynn. He can't do wrong. And he's laughing the entire time. And he makes a joke about like our soil is the driest ever. Like, look at this. This is a rutabaga, and it's like a cherry. And like this is the ear of corn that we've had before. But you see his invention. Well, it shattered all the grass and created dry rain, which made these huge vegetables, and they bring them into court. And they're obviously props, but I couldn't help but laughing at how stupid it was. It's silly.
I just love how there's like no lead up to that whatsoever. They don't even give
None.
like any indication that his invention is capable of that type of thing. It just, oh god, don't get me wrong, it is funny, but it makes no sense. And on top of that, like, I assume it's because of this happening that, this time he was smart and he patented the growth invention. That way, he could actually pay off the IRS and not go to jail and, not lose his wife and everything. But even so, it's like, a little foreshadowing might have helped with this a bit. Like, maybe show that the areas he made it rain, like, suddenly, like, one of the plants, like, suddenly shot up in size or something. But, no, this comes right the fuck out of nowhere. And I'm like, wow.
There's no lead into this, and the movie just ends when he's dismissed from court.
Yeah, this... It's like, we can't think of a better resolution, so this happens. There you go. Happily ever afters all around. And I gotta say, Keenan Wynn was so wasted in this movie.
Oh, yeah, he was.
Like, well, first of all, I don't understand why he's out of jail and why he's back on the college council. Like, I can maybe understand the jail thing because he's rich enough where he could bail himself out, but why would they allow him back on the college council? He's trying to close them down. It makes no sense to me. And on top of that, he does the same exact thing he did in the first movie, in that he threatens to close down the college unless he gets money. He finds out the professor invented something that could be marketed. He tries to strike a deal. The professor says no, so he tries to go around him and get it another way, and then subsequently get him arrested. It's the same exact shit, and I feel so bad for him because Keenan Wynn deserves more than this.
Like, what I will say, there's a lot of problems in this film. I'm not going to say it's a good film, because it's not. And a lot of the things I like about it are because it's so stupid. But this is very rooted in the 60s. If you've seen episodes of The Honeymooners with or I Love Lucy, it's that type of comedy, but done so much worse, and so contrived, and none of the plot points mean anything. Like, all the problems in the beginning are dropped at the end, and there's no setup to the conclusion. It is horribly paced. Some of the effects are really, really bad. I mean, the football scene, probably the best effects, but like the car effects have gotten worse, and it's gotten to the point where it's bad. But then there's stuff that are just so stupidly funny to me. I can't adequately explain it, because I'm not going to recommend you watch this film. Hell no, do not watch this film.
No.
It's not like the Shaggy Dog or the Shaggy DA where you have to watch it for the ridiculousness, but it's just like the ridiculous stuff comes out of nowhere to the point where it made me laugh and made me enjoy it. But I still didn't want to watch the rest of the film. So it's like, and still, it's the second half. It's just not really enjoyable to me in a lot of ways, and I feel like it could have been way better. And it feels like they abandoned the plot of the first movie completely and they went with another plot and then another plot. It feels like they wanted to create a TV series out of this. To be perfectly honest, it's like, and then this happens, and then this happens. This will come back in a few episodes or something like that. But yeah, like, I do not recommend this film. I found a large portion of it funny, but that's just because it was just so out there and ridiculous. Doug, what are your final thoughts?
Oh, this one is bad for you. I think the professor should just drop all pretense and become an evil mad scientist.
Yes.
Because he'd probably have a lot more success in doing that based on how badly his inventions wind up going, or, how he uses them and has no regard for anybody else. I think the courtroom scene is basically how do I say it? It basically, it is a representation of the movie as a whole, being that, it comes right the fuck out of nowhere. They're stalling for time just so they can get big props that will maybe entertain you. It's not a good movie. Don't watch the first one. Don't watch this one.
Kat?
Pretty much what Doug said. I couldn't stand this movie. Like, there were one or two times I maybe laughed, but everything else was just a freaking headache. It is so uninspired, and like, when they try to put a twist on like their old jokes, it does not work for me at all. It was so frustrating, and I still absolutely hate the professor. He is such an asshole. Like, I hate his wife now too, because like, she's such a hypocritical bitch in all this. And granted, I understand why she is, but even so, like, the fact that she still stays with him at the end just is baffling to me. And like I said, certain characters I felt were wasted, and it just, oh god, it was just a horrible, horrible film. But like, I did find out something interesting about it though, a little tidbit as I was researching. And apparently, because of this movie, Disney created a horrible, toxic toy which they marketed to children. Yeah, apparently back in 1962, when they were trying to market the movies, they decided to make their own Flubber, which to us would be modern day silly putty. It was supposed to like bounce, you were supposed to make imprints on it and stuff, and it was made out of like a combination of rubber, mineral oil, and green food coloring. Initially, when they tested it, everything seemed fine. However, after they released it to the public, suddenly children were breaking out in full body rashes and getting sore throats. And after the FDA recalled it, they revealed that some unknown origin in the mixture was causing infections in hair follicles, which is what caused the immense rashes. So that's bad enough as is, but when they were trying to dispose of all the returned Flubber, they couldn't destroy it. Like, they tried incinerating it, and that only resulted in a heavy, dense black cloud, which surrounded all of Rhode Island.
My home state.
Yeah, they produced and tested and manufactured this in Providence, Rhode Island. So,
oh god.
So yeah, they tried incinerating it. That didn't work. They tried to sink it at sea, and all it did was float up to the surface and wash ashore. And then finally, they decided to just use it as a landfill. They said they buried it under the parking lot at Hasbro's warehouse, which is just outside Providence. But here's the thing, like, because we don't know what this mixture is, because it's apparently indestructible, it's apparently still there. Like, to the point where there's an urban legend now that they say during the hottest days of summer, if you look at the parking lot where the Hasbro warehouse is, you can see Flubber oozing through the cracks in the granite. Like, that is like so basically, Zen, you're living atop like a buried loot of like ancient flubber that is probably one day going to envelop your entire state and drag it into the ground and then grow large and take over the rest of the United States.
That is the most interesting part of this entire film series. Dear God,
That's why we need your fact. Consume all of the flubber.
One thing we learned today is that in my home state, the flubber is waiting, and one day it will have its revenge in Ghostbusters 4.
Revenge of the Flubber. See, that's the sequel I want to see.
The other thing I will say is that a lot of this film is just unnecessary. I really don't like any of the stuff with like the exes, and I don't like how the wife instantly gets jealous the moment that his ex comes into play, but she's the one who invites her ex to dinner, even though they don't have money for food, which does not make sense. So, yeah, this film is infuriating. Don't go see it. However,
you want to get even madder? Apparently, Walt Disney himself abhorred sequels, but he only made the film because there were unused gags from the first movie. Let that sink in. Like a flubber in a parking lot.
But in any case, I can rest assured knowing that the ghost story of the Flubber of Rhode Island will continue on. Much like our lad's school, it is the haunting of Flubber that will haunt that hospital. Go to Providence, everyone. I urge you, visit Hasbro Hospital in Providence and find the Flubber. The son of Flubber is out there.
Are you trying to get people to like bring on the zombie apocalypse? Because I guarantee
That's how
you
you
the
get a
second
zombie apocalypse.
I guarantee you the second that people start looking and touching that shit, they're all gonna like turn radioactive. They're going to turn to radioactive monsters. They're going to become zombies. Something bad is going to happen, I guarantee you. And it's going to be the end of the world. So no, do not look for that flubber. It will destroy us all.
But I want to know what it's made out of. I want to know exactly what happened, what went wrong. Did nobody study this?
Well, they did apparently, and apparently nothing came to light until after it was released to the public. So do you really want to chance that again?
I do, but then again, I am absent-minded. With that being said, I'm Zenith will roll.
I'm Kat Macberrie.
I'm Doug Macberrie.
And we will see you guys next time when we talk about the remake with Robin Williams, which is appropriately titled Flubber. And just remember, my friends, go to Providence, Rhode Island, and find the flubber for me. I need to do it for research.
Don't feed the flubber.
Feed the flubber.
Oh.
Hey, this is Megami33. Thank you for watching Zenith Will Review. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more awesome videos. If you like what you see, check out the Patreon page at patreon.com/Zenith Will Review.